Quite a view, isn't it? Blue pretty much as far as the eye can see, some mountains in the distance, a little bit of haze. And if you think I've had to come halfway across the country to find this spot, you'd be wrong. This is Parana Lake and it's just about 2 hours of a drive away from Mumbai city, and that makes it the perfect weekend holiday home destination for an affluent family. And that also makes it the perfect stomping ground for a car like this, the brand new Mercedes-Benz GLE, which I am driving exclusively for you today. The reason this is the ideal stomping ground for the GLE is because while luxury SUVs like these spend most of their time in the city, there is a chance you could take them out into the countryside, like so. With 4-wheel drive and a reasonable amount of ground clearance, it can tackle a rough and rocky rural path like this with ease. But no serious off-roading, okay? And before things got a little too rocky, it was time to take the GLE out of the dirt and onto a more comfortable surface. Now, while it will also be available with 6-cylinder petrol and diesel engines, the one we're driving right now is the 300D, which is a 4-cylinder diesel. Yes, it's still a 4-cylinder, but this time it's the 2-liter engine that debuted in the E-Class and is now also in the C-Class. And in 300D, guys, it makes 245 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. So yeah, as you can see, the numbers are actually quite substantial and sort of befitting of a car this big and this heavy. But how does that feel in the real world? Well, as we noted in the C300D as well, the advantage of this engine is that it makes the bulk of its power really low down in the rev range, pretty much as soon as you touch the accelerator pedal. It's when you start to extend it further, say past around 3,500 RPM, that yeah, you do feel like you should have had a larger engine in a car this big. And I suppose that if you load it up with people and luggage, it might feel a little bit more strained. But that all feels like occasional use. For most people every day, this 300D engine will be more than ample for their needs. What's a bit puzzling is that when you want to hustle things along, you realize that this car doesn't have a sport mode, not even for the engine and gearbox, let alone the steering and the suspension. When's the last time you saw a luxury car that didn't have a sport mode? It does at least have paddle shifters, but that's not quite the same as simply making things more responsive at the flick of a switch, as you can do in most automatic cars. This, as it turns out, foreshadows what comes next. So this car, for a start, the 4-cylinder version, doesn't get air suspension, nor does it get adaptive dampers of any sort. It rides on passive steel springs, and overall they have been set up rather softly. The result is that the GLE tends to float around a little bit over undulations, and in corners it can be really roly-poly. But at the same time, it's got this really cushy ride quality that makes it the consummate luxury car. What it doesn't have is that absolute sharpness and feedback that you get from something like a C-Class. And understandably, for a big SUV like this, they have softened it up a little bit. Now yes, while this 4-cylinder 300D, like its predecessor the 250D, is likely to be the popular variant of the new GLE, there will also be 2 higher spec 6-cylinder versions. There will be the 400D, which uses a more powerful version of the S-Class's 3-liter straight-six diesel, and the 450 petrol, which I went to drive the following day. Now you'll have to excuse me, I think I've stumbled to a bit of a industrial area and everything around me is a little bit of a mess. But hey, I'm driving the GLE 450 petrol and that's exciting. The reason it's exciting is because it debuts Merc's new straight-six petrol engine in India. The engine makes a substantial 367 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque, but it's got another trick up its sleeve. What it also comes with is a 48-volt mild hybrid system, and that's not just to activate a stop-start system, which of course it has. It also provides boost to fill in the gaps when the turbos are spooling up, which is very handy. The other main difference between this car and the lesser 300D is that this one has air suspension. It's also riding on 20-inch wheels rather than 19-inch wheels, and that does have an effect on the ride. Though the air suspension does a slightly better job of cushioning you from the road, the 20-inch wheels do let you feel a lot of the sharper bumps inside the cabin. Just like that. But to the engine. And well, let's just show you what it's like. Wow. It really sounds nice. That's the advantage of a straight 6 engine versus a V6. It just tends to sound that little bit better. What is really funny is that even in this car, there is no sport mode in the dynamic selection menu. While that might seem possible in the 300D diesel, with this amazing petrol engine, you really wish there was a way for it to pick up its skirts and go a little bit quicker and be a little bit more urgent. Even the air suspension, yes, it has different modes and it is adaptive, but because there is no sport mode, there is no real hunkered down sporty one that hardens up the suspension. There is comfort, which is quite a low setting, and there is off-road, which is the high setting. But there's nothing that really feels sporty. So it's always got that comfortable, plush, mushy ride. And while that's really good for comfort, it's not so great for driving fast around corners. Also to be noted is that the Indian GLEs don't get the fancy e-active body control system that uses the 48-volt electric system and active anti-roll bars to keep body movements in check. That also means it doesn't get the cool rocking mode to rescue you from being beached in the sand. But like I said earlier, this car is not a serious off-roader. But fret not, because while that feature may be missing, Mercedes have made sure to load the GLE up with a long list of equipment. Highlights include 4-zone climate control, wireless phone charging, 64 color ambient lighting, and 360-degree surround cameras. But more than the equipment in here, it's the interior itself that blows you away. There's that typically high level of quality we've come to expect from Mercedes, with an abundant use of rich materials. And then there are the two 12.3-inch screens that handle infotainment and instrumentation. Yes, we've seen this before, but in the GLE they sit beautifully docked in the dashboard like a high-end OLED TV in the home entertainment unit in your living room. It looks fantastic and functions even better, as it now uses Merck's latest infotainment system, MBUX. That means the left screen is now a touchscreen, but you can also use the gesture control and AI-driven voice commands. And if that's not enough, you also get 2 touchpads on the steering wheel that should make it really easy on the move. Still, I miss the old click wheel, which was the most effective to use on the move. And now there's just a touchpad. But that's enough about the front, because the big surprise comes in the backseat. Now, a lot of work has gone into the backseat of this new GLE, and well, if you think I'm sitting far forward, you're right. That's because this seat is now powered. That's right, it will slide all the way back, freeing up loads of legroom, and it can even be reclined. It has to be noted now at this point that this new GLE has moved to a long wheelbase format. It's not special for India, it's all over the world. It is now a long wheelbase car in Mercedes parlance, and that means legroom in the back is just tremendous. Headroom, as ever, is also ample. I just wish the seat was a little bit higher, this being an SUV, and that the cushions weren't so firm. There's also a lot of other stuff to keep you happy in the back here, like a powered sunblind, a pair of USB-C ports, interestingly. I hope your phone is compatible with that, and dual zone climate control specifically for the back, and of course, who can miss the massive sunroof? It really is the E-class of SUVs, isn't it? That wheelbase is 80mm longer than the old car, and the seat slides back and forth by 100mm and reclines by 30 degrees. The powered seats also mean you can fold them at the touch of a button from the boot. Not that you'd need to, because it has a voluminous 630 liters, and unlike many other Mercs, it now has a dedicated recess for the spare tire. To say the new GLE is a big leap forward is an understatement as big as the SUV itself. The thing is huge, and it's all gone into the back seat, where it matters most, especially in the Indian context. Space and comfort are top class back here, and the powered slide and recline function is a game changer for this class. You'll be well catered to at the front as well, with lots of comfort, luxury, and a long modern equipment list, centered around the excellent new MBUX infotainment. It is, of course, going to be more expensive when launched in January 2020 with an expected starting price of around 75 lakh rupees. But we think it's worth it for the sheer breadth of improvements Mercedes has put into it.
Jaguar have just given their smallest sedan, the XE, a facelift, and I'm here in UK to get a closer look. The beautiful British weather is playing games with us, but while I've got a little spot of sunshine, let's talk about the changes. They say they've taken customer feedback into consideration while making the changes on this car, offering a more premium interior, but they've also tweaked the exterior of this car to give it a wider looking stance. Let's take a look at those first. The cosmetic surgery on the XE gives it a more sporty, hunkered-down look. The LEDs have become slimmer to give it a wider appearance, and the front bumper has been redesigned with larger air intakes to give it some added attitude. The grille has also grown a little, and there will be a new set of alloys. The rear LEDs have also been put on a diet and are now slimmer, and the valance has also been redesigned too. The changes on the exterior are small, but the bigger difference is on the inside. Well, as promised, on the inside, it is far more luxurious than before. The whole top of the dash is now leather wrapped, and that gives it a far richer feel. You've got the info display, the touchscreen over here, but below that, the dials and knobs have all changed. You've got these two large dials and touch buttons for the HVAC system. You've got a new gear selector over here. From the F-Type, far more sporty, more storage space, so cup holders as well. There's also more storage in the door pockets for a 1-liter bottle, new steering wheel, new multi-info display for the driver. So lot more premium, lot richer, and far better than before. Globally, the new XE does get the Touch Pro Duo for some variants, but in India, we will see the single touchscreen infotainment system, which now comes with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Overall, the dash is simpler and neater, but far more luxurious. As far as engines go, with the new XE, the 200 HP 2-liter petrol version will make its exit. And now the XE will only come with the 250 HP version of the 2-liter petrol. The diesel will remain the same 180 HP 2-liter. Both petrol and diesel will be the Ingenium engines. So Jaguar felt that customers were pretty happy with the way that this car drove and handled and the ride quality, so they didn't really change anything there. So the mechanicals are still very much the same. And I'd have to agree with them because we've always liked the engine. We've liked the way that this car handles. It's a really fun to drive car. And of course, we've also been impressed by the ride quality. So that remains as is. The team at Jaguar felt if it ain't broken, why fix it? And I agree. The experience behind the XE wheel has always been a thoroughly enjoyable one. However, there are some additional features to enhance that experience behind the wheel and add some newness. So the other thing that's new is the smart setting feature. So you say I put my memory setting into 1 and set the seats. It will also recognize the steering setting that I like, the music that I like, the temperature that I like, the wing mirror settings that I like. And the next time, it will automatically adjust all of those to my setting as well. The Smart Setting feature will be offered as standard across all variants, and as mentioned before, the XE will now have 1 petrol and 1 diesel. What this mid-cycle refresh brings is a fresher, sportier looking XE with a few more features, while still retaining the best bits like its dynamic capability and the ride quality.
What started off as the people's car has grown into something so much bigger and so much better. The Volkswagen Beetle, if not probably one of the most iconic, probably the most iconic shape in automotive history. The very versatile Volkswagen bus, and of course the unbelievably beautiful Karmann Ghia, and a lot more. Welcome to the first ever Volks Drive in Mumbai, the biggest classic Volkswagen car festival ever. Held in the beachside suburb of Juhu, the 2019 Volks Drive saw participation from almost 50 cars ranging from the mid-40s all the way to the modern classics of the 80s and 90s.
So this is Mumbai's first ever Volks Drive, and we've got a record number of entries. Great to see so much enthusiasm. Of course, most of the cars here, Beetle's probably the most loved car ever, judging by how many people actually bought it and its phenomenal history. So a lot of Beetles, of course, but lots of Kaman Gihas. We've really got a fantastic turnout over here, and above everything is just the sheer enthusiasm of people coming out on a Sunday morning, which just makes this event very special.
So this is probably the largest ever Volkswagen meet in the country, classic Volkswagen meet in the country. All the cars that you see here are mechanical marvels. They're designed to last forever. Most of the cars that you see over here have the legendary Volkswagen air-cooled engines. But you also have some cars like the Golf and the Passat, which are the modern classics. So I think the show covers almost every kind of classic VW that you can have.
We caught up with Stefan Knapp, Director, Volkswagen Passenger Cars India, to get his views on this rather colourful event.
It's wonderful. It's very wonderful. For me, it's like coming home, actually. I grew up with these vehicles. My dad had 6 or 7 Beetles, yeah, and that is the core of Volkswagen. Really, you can feel it everywhere. You can hear the noise, the sound. You see this fantastic design. That's all about us. That's a legend, what you can see. And for me, it's a dream come true. I think everybody, or if you are leading a brand, you have to know where you're coming from. Yeah, what is the heritage of a brand? And this is a very, very nice tool and a nice, kind of a movement for the brand you can identify with. Yeah, so it's for us, it's the base, and these enthusiasts here are really driving the brand tremendously. So it's a super event, a super possibility to experience the brand.
Volks Drive 2019 had not one but 2 Kaman Ghias grace the event. These beautiful two-door coupes have always been collector favorites in the country and are some of the prettiest cars ever made by Volkswagen.
She's been with me for the last 25 years. She's very, very original, and that is the best part of this car.
Runs very well, left-hand drive. Originally a US consulate car. Was brought by somebody else, and it took me about 7 years of negotiation to get this car, and luckily I got it. It's about 8 years into my custody now. Been driving it very often. Runs like a wind.
Other highlights of the event included this, the oldest Volkswagen Beetle in the country known to exist today, a 1952 split window, or Splitty as it is fondly called, from the Vivek Goenka collection. In fact, there were 9 cars from Vivek Goenka's collection present at the event this year, including a number of buses in various configurations. The collection also brought along a rare Kugelwagen and a courier wagon.
Here are single examples at the show. This is a Kugelwagen and that's the courier wagon, also known as the Thing. Both are very old cars used during the war, and this is the only example in India that was hand-built by us. It was in really, really bad shape when we got it. And the other one, there are just a few, about 3 or 4 in India, but again, very rare, beautiful off-roader. Very different from what a typical Volkswagen Beetle would be.
There were literally Beetles of every type, color, and nearly every body style represented here. From modified ones running larger and more aggressive wheels, to the bigger engine Super Beetles with the 1600cc engine, to mint stock examples, there was something for everyone.
The event is a beautiful event, and the collection is simply out of this world. I never knew so many cars were there, though I've worked on so many cars. But today what I see is really, really fantastic.
One of the cars that stood out and caught our eye was this 66 Beetle that is a very recent restoration with very special copper-coated fittings instead of the chrome that is usually what these cars come with as standard. Truly stunning.
So this is the 66. I bought this about 5-6 years ago, and I bought this. This is a single owner car. It was a car which was owned by the army personnel, and he drove it all the way from Nepal. He drove it into India.
Other notable collectors that took part in the rally included Gautam Singh Gania and Sameer Kadam with their respective Beetles. And it wasn't just people from Mumbai who took part, but also some collectors from Pune, including Dhananjay Badamikar, who drove down in his bay window bus and a rare Passat, proof that these classics are still very reliable. As the cars lined up and were flagged off, the distinct sound of the air-cooled engines filled the air. Nostalgia for all those millions who have grown up around these absolutely lovable cars. And as the cars drove down the Jew promenade by the beach, it was most certainly a sight to behold. Reds, yellows, blues and all the shiny chrome certainly seemed to transport Mumbai back to the good old carefree days.
I think we should keep doing this more often because these cars in particular should be driven every day, unlike older vintage cars.
I am attending most of these events related to the Beetle, but they are very well organized, very well managed, good fun.
So it's a very good initiative. It actually allows most of the guys who are owning Beetles, who are owning vans, who are owning water-cooled VWs, we can interact, we can find out where is the scope of improvement, as well as like it gives us an opportunity to exchange stuff also.
And now it's time for tips on sustainability and protecting the environment with Servo Futura G Plus from Indian Oil. Choose a smaller car if you don't need the size and space. Overloading the car with weight makes it work harder.